You should see that live right now. Hello, I'm Eagle, Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle. This is episode 92, special episode, super special episode during the afternoon today. We have Mila, the hash queen, with us. What an honor it is today. This woman she's done so much, from being a mother, inventor, writer, world traveler. I mean, she has so much good things to tell us and go over. I can't wait to hear her story. Amelia, how are you doing today?
I don't know.
I can still hear you. We're live. She's probably, you just can't see because of the link, but I can hear and see you while she's doing that. How are you doing today?
Okay, I'm doing great today. Actually, I did a lot of moving for a pollinator company. We got a bigger space, and I decided to build a little museum there. So we've been moving all the stuff from storage to fill up the museum.
It's a place I'd like to see. Is it a museum of your life, or just is it a museum of the pollinator and hash?
Not pretty my life, pretty much. There'll be pollinator, but there'll be Dabadoo in there. There'll be a hemp hotel in there, different things I did.
Well, you've certainly done enough in your life to probably fill a museum, that's for sure. Not many of us are as lucky to live as full of a life as you, that's for sure. I mean, mother, inventor, writer. I mean, just traveling alone is amazing to your credits. Not to mention being a woman in the industry isn't easy as well to try to break through. And all these tasks, plus having 4 kids on top of that, that's an amazing feat. That is an amazing feat, and you're an amazing woman. So, yeah, where would you like to start off this awesome journey? I know you originally were born in England. Do you want to start there and tell us a little bit how you came along?
I left England when I was 1. So,
and the story of England.
and we moved back, and I left when I was 11. But let's start in Amsterdam when I tried hash for the first time. Because at that time, Amsterdam, this was 1964, 5, there was no weed in Amsterdam at all. All you could get was hash, and it would come from Lebanon, Turkey, and related countries. And that was it. So my boyfriend at that time, he bought me a batch box full, because that's how you bought it in those days. He wanted to study. He was studying medicine and wanted to see the effects of someone smoking hash. Well, I rolled on the ground. I cycled with my legs in the air to get to my bed. I was laughing and laughing and laughing. And I must say, yeah, that first toke did it. It's been my favorite drug ever since. And I still smoke hash. That's all I smoke. In fact, the strange thing is I already been smoking hash for like 25 years before I ever ran into any weed. So, because I was in Amsterdam, and then in 68, I decided to travel, and we went to India, and we were traveling, hitchhiking overland, so all the countries in between. And Afghanistan was the best as far as the hash goes. And the people were wonderful in those days. Well, I'm sure they still are, but a lot happened since then, because in 68, nobody was thinking to invade their country for any real reason. So, and they were great people. Yeah, that's where I first watched them making hash. I didn't so much partake, but I saw how it was done. And then leaving Afghanistan on the Khyber Pass, I bought a few kilos of hash, cost $20 a kilo in those days. And brought them in to take with me to India. So I guess that was my first smuggle. In fact, we were sitting in the bus with my daughter, who was 3 at that time, and
4.
you had your first birthday in Kathmandu.
That was my 5th.
Was it? Okay. So she insists she was already 4. And there were 6 other guys from the West on that bus. So I put everybody's hash in my bag and sat in the front with my daughter like a proper tourist. And when we came to the Pakistani border, they brought me and my daughter and carried my bag to sit with the most high official there, who had never seen a little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. And he was totally fascinated and served us tea and cookies while the whole rest of the bus was getting trashed. Nobody had anything. So, and at the end, they carried my back onto the bus, and we went on into Pakistan and eventually on into India. Now I went up to the north first when we arrived up to Kulu Manali Valley. And that was so magical that I left 6 weeks later. I couldn't wait to see the rest of India. But apart from traveling down to Goa, which was great because we arrived there on my 24th birthday in 68 on the 5th of December, and that was just magic. My only present was a red, what are those flowers called?
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus that my daughter gave me for my birthday present. And we walked down to the beach and there was nobody there. This was 68. In the end, in that whole winter, there was maybe 10 travelers there. So it was very quiet. It was lovely. It was beautiful. It was I guess the paradise we'd been looking for. Basically, yeah, it was really nice. But I went back straight up to the mountains, first going to Kathmandu, but that was a town. So Manali was better. That was in the middle of the forest, and it was just a very small, well, large village or a very small town. So in the end, we ended up there, and I lived there off and on for many summer times and moved down to Goa for many winter times. Yeah, all together we lived in India for 14 years.
It's an amazing place to be, that's for sure. And to be able to smoke hash the whole time you're there, it had to be an enlightening time in your life for sure.
Yes. My youngest daughter was born there actually. And that was a great time. When the kids got a bit bigger, I used to go trekking with them in the Himalayas every summer. And that was just fantastic. And the memories are great of huge expanses. And all day long, the kids would complain, oh, we have to walk so far. And then as soon as we arrived at what we decided was going to be the place to pitch our tents, they were off on the mountainside miles away. They suddenly had all the energy in the world. And yeah, that was lovely.
Must have been beautiful waking up on the mountainsides like that to a family with you, smoking a little bit of hash. I can't imagine a better way to start a day. What a free feeling to have in the morning.
The first years in India, every day we'd start with a chillum for breakfast, before breakfast. But by now I don't smoke chillums anymore. I just smoke joints the same way I did the very first time in 64 with a little tobacco and hash. That's it.
I've always been curious. Why the tobacco? Is it just to a transfer method to burn the hash and kind of conceal it a little bit in public, or is it just a flavor thing?
Without hash burn, it's very difficult to have a joint with solid hash. It wouldn't work. It needs the air to pass by. And now actually I'm cutting on the tobacco, not on the hash, just on the tobacco. So I use a bit less than 1 gram a day, and I can make 10 little teeny joints out of it. So I'm cutting the tobacco, but for me, it needs a little bit with the hash to make it go.
It changes chemically. It changes the reaction. You know, it's like mainlining your hash. It definitely speeds it up. It brings the more stone stronger into it. I was doing a lot of vaping when I broke my leg, and it made me very spacey and high. And boy, did I miss that first joint when I had some tobacco in there. I was like, oh yeah. None of us smoke tobacco without. It's the
No,
hash.
we never smoked cigarettes, never.
It's just the hash that
Huh.
takes that little bit more.
I've never tried it myself. You know, I've heard it being used like that, but I've never tried it like that myself. But you guys make it sound very appealing.
If you don't smoke tobacco at the moment, don't start trying it because I don't know. I don't want to be the one to have continue on the tobacco.
Right, right. Well, they do roll it in what they call the blunts here, you know, with the tobacco leaves, like the cigar. And I don't know if it's just maybe too much, but I don't enjoy those as well. But I may be interested in a sprinkle of tobacco in a bowl. I believe they call that a mook here, where they add a little bit of tobacco and some hash on that in a bowl. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Or a joint.
We roll them up in papers, but when you roll it like that in a full leaf, that's a lot of tobacco. That would be really, really
That
strong.
always pissed me off. I was in California and I wasn't allowed to smoke my joints inside because they had tobacco in them. But they'd all roll these blunts. And I'd say, man, you got way more tobacco in your blunt than I've got in my whole joint. But that was different.
I'm also curious about. I know over there you guys do use a lot more hash than flour, correct? I mean, that's just the way you guys enjoy the plant, correct?
Well, I must say, when I came back from India, suddenly the whole city, this was 1988, the whole city was filled with coffee shops. And what did they sell? Weed and bad hash, because they were getting all their hash from Morocco in those days. And of course, I was very spoiled in India, rubbing it myself sometimes in the mountains or getting his great Afghani. So, and when I came back, I tried the weed. I tried smoking joints with weed, but after 23 years of smoking my hash joints, it never caught on. I don't like it. I don't like. But then, on the other hand, I think it's the same. Like with alcohol, you have beer drinkers and wine drinkers, and they'll seldom switch. If you're a beer drinker, you won't have wine so often. But they both have some alcohol. The both end result is pretty much the same. And I think it's the same with weed and hash. It's just your preference. And some prefer weed and some prefer hash. I don't think any one of them is particularly so much better than the other, except I prefer the hash.
Well, I know we're big fans of hash. I'm a big fan of hash for sure, and most of the people that hang around this channel are as well. And just for that alone, I mean, thank you very much for all your work and that you've done into this industry for sure, because we all enjoy the methods, both dry sift and you know, the bubble bags. I myself, I understand the quality of the dry sift, but for me, I do my method is through the bubble, through the bags, which you're responsible for as well. So you know, thank you. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here sifting my own hash as well. And you know, you have laid a lot of work in this industry for us, and an amazing journey.
The dry sift in the pollinator, I always say, if you like really the flavor and the aroma in the spliff, then you should use dry sift. The water hash usually has less taste and aroma, but it's stronger. I also prefer the water hash. By the way, my bags are called isolators.
Yes.
That's the copycat.
Right. I'm sorry. For
Okay.
that. For sure.
She's just being very good. She normally completely forgets. And she has a pollinator company that makes isolator bags and bubbleators. And she forgets it all the time.
And I've had that
You know,
company
it's
26 years. So yeah, it's good. And actually, at the moment, the dry sift pollinators are very popular because I think also the people making CBD before they make their extracts and creams, whatever, that if you just use the crystals, it'll have a whole different color and everything. So now we're getting so many pollinators ordered, I think.
well, a lot of that I think too is like you already stated that for the extractors nowadays, they're chasing the terps, and through the bubble wash method, wash and hash through the water method rather, you do lose a lot of them terps.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that are using the water method is turning it into rosin, to where the terp chasers are starting off with a dry sift process and then pressing it that way to retain fruits.
And for rosin, you can use both.
Right.
So I see you're also
So
you don't usually dab. Oh, but this is a
no,
weed.
no. Yes, I'm a weed smoker. I'm a flower smoker mainly. Uh, dabs are just I've done a lot of construction through the years and inhaled a lot of dust, unfortunately. So the dabs are really tough on my lungs. I like them from time to time, but I'm like you, very much like you. I prefer a joint loaded full of hash. I don't utilize the tobacco. I use the flower as the transfer method, but definitely have to throw some bubble or something, some nice water made hash on top of it. For sure is always a pleasure. And it's funny because I have a lot of people on the show that are just hash nuts. We're all hash nuts, and some of them have these beautiful little boxes where they've been able to save samples for years and years and years. And I can't do that. I can't do it. Once it's there, I am smoking on that stuff till it's gone, and then it's time to make some more hash.
That was before Corona. I had a little bit, but Corona hit and everything got finished. All little stashes and little bits of goodies.
Yeah. No, I never managed to save any. Although
It's too good to save.
Ah, yes. We've had a few questions actually in the last few days in her museum that she's putting together. She had the old shop for 13 odd years and started a wall of fame.
And we have like 150 tiny little frames, each with a different hash sample in. And they're from Japan, they're from the US, they're from Holland, France, from
Deepest Africa, from China, from Russia when it was still closed. This is going back to the 90s, I think.
Yeah,
Late
since
90s.
we had the shop.
Yeah. And to get some of them in was like, how did these people bring this in the first place? To have it where they made it is totally illegal. And they broke all the rules just to show off to her. So the Wall of Fame is coming back.
If anyone has some nice samples they would like on the Hall of Fame, all you have to do is mail like 0.3 gram and just seal it in an ordinary envelope. And they always came through because nobody, it's not like we don't even need a whole gram. Just to put it on the wall, we need a part of a gram. So just send it to Pollinator Company and we'll get more little frames. As I said, we have 100 samples already, 150, but there's plenty of room for more.
I can't even imagine some of the amazing hash you have been tried over the years? Because I'm sure everywhere you go, people are bombarding you with samples. Please try this. Please look at this. And boy, what amazing position to be in. I mean, I can't imagine a worse problem than to be bombarded with some of the area's top hash everywhere I go. It'd be an amazing experience.
I'm super lucky. I don't have to carry anymore.
But in that same aspect, do you get to just because you don't get to carry? Are you able to take some favorites back? Is that such a thing? I mean, there's some stuff that you go, oh, that was so good. I'd like to have some of that. Are you able to take
Uh,
some of your favorites back with you?
I'll reach back to some of the people who gave it if I come there next time. Yeah, that was really good hash you made. I'm coming back next October or whatever. And no, I'm very fortunate like that.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So I'm curious to back on your end of the world there. Do you think that the reason for the main, especially when you started smoking the hash, you insinuated that it was mainly hash that floated around. There wasn't no flour. Do you think that because of the legality of it all, it's too hard to just transfer pounds and pounds of flour? Do you think that was the reason why it was extracted down?
I don't know if at that time I was even aware that weed existed because there was only hash. But if you look at it all the way from Morocco, North Africa, Turkey, Iran, all these countries, all the way to China, people only smoke hash. Maybe in southern Thailand and India, they might.
I'm not sure what happened with Melia, but hopefully she'll come back with us. She just faded off there. Hopefully not the old hacking stuff. Aldridge 25, CJ Apple. Light it up again, Tim. Thank you guys for joining me. A Nova. Hopefully this she pops back in on us. Not sure what happened there. What a bummer that is. Boy, this internet is something. Well, guys, just kind of talk with you guys for a minute. Hopefully, things come back around. Hopefully, she's able to log back on. Let me bring up my chats here just in case she is trying to connect me through Instagram. I have got it up just in case she is trying to contact me. Smiley BK BLK Eagle 420. How you guys doing? Hopefully Amelia is able to log back on. Not sure exactly what's going on. Uh, it's odd that I'm not the one being taken out for a change. I'm trying to switch accounts here to just in case she's trying to contact me on that account. Anywho, sorry about the delay. Humble Grower 420. I'm sure she'll be back. Majestic Grower Buddha Boy, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this so far. I know I have. Green Mountain Grower, Andy Man, how you guys doing? UKSIF. I see Mr. Bond 420 in chat. That's pretty amazing all in itself. Jose, how you doing? TW, Mo Grower. And I almost think it's my computer because, man, shit is going crazy over here. I can't stop or start shit. Oh, we're back.
Okay, that's the sound back.
I can hear you.
Does
There we
this
go.
improve the picture? Can you see
You're
it
sideways
better?
now.
No, it doesn't work. Okay, we'll have to do it like this. It's on my phone. I'm really sorry. The computer ran out of juice. I
Oh,
don't
no
have the.
worries. No worries.
But you can see her.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay.
that's the best I can do. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, no worries. I'm just honored that you guys were able to make it back.
Okay.
Okay, we were just trying to line it up. You've got her head, right? You're not zoomed in on her knees.
Stomach.
No, I can see her body. It isn't just her head. I can see her roll on the joint.
Perfect. That's what we want. Okay, she's all yours again.
So I was thinking while we were cut off that actually I forgot to say that as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing about making hash is the genetics. That's the bottom line. Okay, that being said, we can continue.
I have to agree as well. I'm trying to think here exactly where we left off. We were discussing how you thought that it got to be just hash over there and not just flour.
Yeah, that all those countries, they only smoke hash, and I don't know, and it's purely for the reason that they prefer it. I mean, in Afghanistan, they say weed is for women. Hash is for men.
That's funny. I've never heard that, but it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
I personally enjoy the hash. It's more of a heady buzz. Uplifting. It's a completely different buzz from the flower. But the flower every once in a while is very necessary to kind of bring you back. So
For me, it spaces me out in a whole different way.
So I can't imagine being in India with the family. And were you able to see a bunch of cannabis growing when you're in India, or was it just still dealing pretty much with hash?
It grows wild. It grows wild all through Kulu Manali Valley. In fact, I have a picture that the local photographer took, and he wanted me to dress up in local dress and with a basket, and on my back, he wanted flowers, but there were no flowers. There was only weed growing along the sidewalk and everywhere. So the whole basket is filled with weed instead. It grows everywhere there. All through the Himalayas, practically. I've been other places and you can just walk past it for a couple of hours. But then the real place is Kazakhstan. I've been there a few times. And there they have 1,200,000 hectares of wild marijuana. It's the biggest marijuana field. You can see it from space, but it's not cultivated at all. We went there a few times and to test it. It wasn't particularly strong, but then people also say that because it's so wild and uncultivated, if you would feed it and nurture it properly, it would be very strong, because even then it was like 10%, 8% THC, but it had quite a high percentage of CBD.
I found the picture for you. Let me see if I can line it up in front of the camera. That's my mother in local dress with a basket full of leaves. Can you see that?
I can.
Can't see the marijuana plants.
No, the marijuana plants were squished in the basket.
I can't, it's so hard to believe that I can see this beautiful woman just coming through the mountains with her 4 children. Just it seems crazy that it would happen. What a strong woman to be, for one, to just
I don't know. It
take a
was
journey
lovely.
like that on your own.
It was really
It couldn't have
lovely
been
to
easy.
live there. It was lovely to live there, and it also had a big freedom. Like over here, my neighbors look like, ooh, she's smoking. Over there, nobody cares what you're doing. So long as you're not really interfering with their lives too much, let them do their thing. They'll let you do your thing, pretty much.
That's the way it should be, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So when was it that you really
No.
that you decided that you could? When did you start sifting your own hash? I guess is the best question. When did that come into play?
Well, that happened when I came back to Amsterdam, when I couldn't get any really nice hash, because I say the Moroccan at that time, I just didn't like it. It wasn't what I was used to. I'm not saying it's bad hash, but it wasn't what I liked. But at that time, it was still not really legal, but it wasn't really too serious if you were growing pot. So I started growing. I got my first jobs because I knew how to make clones. And in those days, they were all growing from seeds. So to make clones was really a good addition to everybody's knowledge. And I made clones and clones. In the end, I had a greenhouse with 24,000 plants, which I was running alone with a farmer. The farmer was filling the tanks for the nutrients, and I was taking care of the plants. Alas, it didn't make it to the end. I think 10 days before harvest time, it got busted. That was a pity. Thank God I wasn't there at the moment. So.
But with all that growing, you have a lot of leaf matter left over.
Yeah, that was the thing, what I was going to get to. You have leaf matter left over, you have endless amounts of buds if you want. And actually in that time, the girls who were trimming would do it over a screen. So whatever they were trimming, some crystals would fall through the screen. And at the end of the day, if you were lucky, you could make a few joints. And it was just that I was being stoned one night, standing in front of the clothes dryer, that I saw the clothes tumbling the same way we did with the material, marijuana material, over the screen. And so that was it. The next day, I got the guys I was working with in that time, I got them to buy a secondhand dryer. It was the drying machine, the tumbler. We took out the heating element and just put a screen around the drum, turned it on, threw in some dried material, and sat and watched it. And yeah, sure. Oh, at the bottom in 5 minutes, there was a whole layer of pure crystals lying at the bottom. It was the first mechanical method to separate crystals, because even though they'd been making it for thousands of years, they always made it by hand, either rubbing it or sifting it by hand. But this was a machine, so it gave everybody the opportunity to make their own once we started producing the machines. And then later, yeah.
I can't help but wonder if every interview, every picture I've ever seen you've had that amazing smile. like you are enjoying life and everything you do. So is that the moment there when you developed that great smile? Is when that first time you used the machine, or gave it a whirl, and you've seen that pile of heads there? Is that when it was like, yeah? Is it when it came to tuition there?
No, that smile I had. If you ever manage to get a hold of my book, there's a picture in there when I'm about 2 or 3 years old, and I've got the smile. I don't know. It's part of me.
I actually did not know about the book until today. I was listening to some of your previous interviews, and I was like, man, I have got to get this book. And then, by the way, I do plan on picking up that book from your website, not from Amazon, from your website,
Yeah,
because
if
I
you go
totally love
to
it.
Pollinator Web Shop, it's there. You can order it, and that's the only place you can order it that I'll sign it for you. You know, you can get it at some
That's
other
why.
places, but then I can't get it signed.
Oh no, I want that signed copy. I want that signed copy. So that's
Okay,
definitely going to the website.
just go to the
Sure.
Pollinator Web Shop.
Pollinator.nl.
Pollinator.nl. It's not com. NL is for Netherlands. That's the country here. And now it's also
So
available in Spanish.
nice, nice. Are you able to ship that thing everywhere? Are you able to ship your products across the world without?
Yeah, it isn't always cheap because the book weighs 800 grams. But eventually it gets everywhere. Yeah. And in the beginning, I
Oh,
sent 1,000 to the States, and there's still a few left. But like I say, if you get those, shipping would be cheaper, but I couldn't sign it.
oh no, I definitely like my signed books. I like the digital stuff these days. I do listen to a lot of Audible, just for the convenience of being able to do two things at once. But there's just something different about having that physical copy, and if especially to have it signed, that means a lot to me. It always does, because
As
I
a,
do have right above behind the camera. I have some books, and they're all been signed, and I
okay,
treasure them things. I even like to even have them be touched. To be honest with you, I'll show them occasionally, but they stay up there and
they're
almost
over there
guarded.
in the. Well, I must say, there's also a special edition, and it comes in a box, and it also contains a film about my life. Okay, the film was made in 2011, so I haven't quite become the hash queen yet. I haven't started Dabadoo parties worldwide yet, but it tells a lot about my period living in India.
I can't wait to read it myself. So, what are some of your favorite strains to work? What is you were talking to you on the way back? You mentioned how important the strains are. Good strains are. What are some of your favorites to work with? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, I must say, since I stopped growing, because that was such a big location, it suddenly hit me. If I'd gotten bus there, what would have happened with my kids? You know, I was a one parent family, so I decided actually I shouldn't be growing. And I'd already developed the pollinator for my own use so that I could smoke something nice. And so we just started producing the pollinators instead. So since 94, 95, I haven't been growing anymore. Plus, I have a tiny garden here that the sun arrives at 5 in the afternoon and quits about 7. So my garden right here is useless for growing weed.
But what strains when you're smoking? What type of
Yeah.
hash do you like to smoke? Is it a
Okay. Well, at
sativa
that time,
base?
this was from 88 to 90, whatever. We only grew orange bud. It had come from the States. I cloned it and we grew that. But do you know when people, and in America now they have so many hundreds of strains, and I have no idea what is train wreck as opposed to cookies or anything. For me, it doesn't relate to what I know, so I come there and get all this amazing hash and then it's gone again. And I don't really know each different strain over there. But personally, I always say, actually, the best hash there is the one I'm smoking right now, because that's the one that's happening now. All the rest is in the past and the future, but this is it right now. Although I do have a favorite hash, but that was many years ago. I was living in Kulu, and some of the sadhus, the religious guys with matted hair that smoke chillums all day long and believe that that is their way to enlightenment. And they took me up the mountains to show me their favorite plants. And it turned out we were way up, nearly at the tree line, and there would be like a hollow in the mountainside that in winter had been covered in snow, and underneath would be these older plants, and they were like bonsais and completely scraggly, and they wouldn't make big buds, they made small buds. But we rubbed those buds, put them in a chillum, and smoked them immediately. And I tell you, walking down that mountain that afternoon was like an acid trip. It was just amazing. The colors, each sound was like electrified, each color, each vision. And yeah, the views were amazing in the Himalayas, every direction you look. Yeah, that was maybe definitely the one that has the most impact and real memory. Yeah.
I can see why. I mean, the way you describe it sounds so magical. I mean, I can't even
Of course, the
imagine
whole
living there.
environment and the scene and everything adds up to this also. But I must say, especially in the States, I've had some amazing hashes, both dry sift and water hash. And in South America, they're getting pretty good too, I tell you. Last fall, I had a whole tour of Dabadoo parties. That's a hash party I organized. We were in Peru and in Costa Rica, in Mexico, in Colombia. Then we went to Miami and had another one there. And yeah, so everybody enters their own made hash. So there you really get to see. And they're getting very good down there. Also, they're influenced more by America's way of doing things than necessarily the European. So they're more really all into dabbing and all that stuff, which is not really for me. For me, dabbing is like smoking a whole joint all in one toke. And it's, and the way people cough after it, I can't let my poor 75-year-old lungs have to go through that.
Man, I tell you, I am jealous of your life, to be honest with you. And I was lucky enough to have Indra on last week and a few other times, and both of you guys have such amazing stories about we talk a little bit about the innovations, and the way things
Yeah,
going these days. Everything's growing in these tents indoors, and we're working, we're extracting in another room. We don't have these stories of walking through the Himalayas and going living in India and shit. All of our stuff's done right here, and we've spent most of our lives pretty much on our own lot, our own ground here in our own
but
cities. We don't have we're not going to have these amazing stories to pass on like you guys do.
I've
It's going
seen
to be
some
quite sad.
amazing fields in Northern California, I tell you.
But again, you've traveled the world. I mean, already to this
Yeah,
point in the story, you've probably
yeah,
lived about 10 lifetimes compared to most of us in the travels and in your endeavors. I mean, just
yeah,
starting just the canvas aspect of your life, is amazing, but it's just a drop in the bucket. I mean, you did produce clothes and, worked that industry for a long time before you even got to here. I mean, the travel, what, let's see, you were England to Holland to where you got pregnant in Holland, right, at 19. Started making clothes there for a while.
At a
And then the
boutique,
tea
yeah.
shop. Yep,
And then
you
we had a
didn't
tea
even
shop.
mention the tea house there. So I mean, that just takes us up before you where you even started the story. I mean, there's a lot of great living up until that point. I mean, you want to back up and tell us a little bit about the tea house there? I mean, that
Sure.
sounds like an amazing adventure right there in itself.
We were,
Uh,
yeah, we were never a coffee shop. We never sold, but we traded, we shared. And we even had a couple of times Americans who had dropped out and burned their passports and done gone what, came with acid and turned on the whole shop or the tea house. And yeah, we had a really nice time because also my girlfriend, she used to write for one of these pop magazines. So she'd always get invited when groups like The Who or whatever would come to Amsterdam. And they came to the tea house after, because that's why we started the tea house, because the nightlife in Amsterdam for smokers in those days was not non-existent. And I stayed the whole night. That was fun. But looking behind you, I'm seeing when I was growing in Holland, apart from the time I did it in the greenhouse, it was always indoors. Our weather is just too shit to be able to grow outdoors unless you have these ones that flower immediately. But I must say, in the 80s, they didn't have all that. So I was growing indoors, but we certainly didn't have those nice bright pink lights. We still had the old fashioned 400, 600-watt lamps. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these days it's more towards the LEDs, but again, we don't, especially here in Michigan. I haven't had a chance to travel far and wide, and I'm sure before my lifetimes I'll probably see some fields of cannabis here, but nothing like the mountains in the Himalayas in India and all that. I can't imagine just walking along and the way you describe this is the way I by the way as you tell the story, this is basically how I'm seeing it in my head, just kind of walking along with a little basket through these fields of cannabis and just kind of smelling it and like, oh, clip, I'm making I can make some nice
Well,
hash out of this today. Yeah, I mean, it
over,
just sounds like a wonderland. And
over there,
I'm
they do
lucky.
it different. You have the buds, and then you take two hands and you rub the bud from bottom to top, like 5 or 6 times before you'll take another bud. And then after a while, your whole hands will be covered with resin. And then you have to push that off. And then you got some nice smoke.
So as you're walking around all day, you do every once in a while you see a plant that's just amazing and you'll rub that plant. It's more like shopping in that way. You don't pick anything, you just leave it be. You know, it's not finished. It can be rubbed again. If you haven't been brutal, if you do it very lightly, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I actually like that, respecting nature and actually kind of leaving some for somebody else. That's a much better way. I mean, it came free to you. Why not just take some and
Yeah.
leave it be
Yeah.
for somebody else to enjoy? Uh,
Yeah.
Good way to go
It's
about
not a
it.
very economical way. If you add it in percentages, it's very low. But it's pure resin if you don't rub it too much, and it's pretty good. Yeah. Although nowadays, I do want to mention that wherever you travel nowadays, people have come with Western strains, American strains. So now everybody's looking for the old land races. And like in Morocco, man, all these American strains got brought there. And as it's all wind blown, I'm sure there is very difficult to find any place now to still to find the original Moroccan, the original Manali, the original Thai even. You know, in South America also they're growing American strains. So the original Punta Rojo of Colombia is very difficult to find. And it makes me sad a bit. But yeah, people take their favorite strain with them. And then in the middle of the Himalayas, they sow their cookie seeds. And when the males get, then of course the whole valley in the end gets affected by all these foreign strains. Something to
Years of
think about.
very quickly undoing years of hard work, of nature's hard work, of you know adapting a strain to that in particular environment. It is sad when new genetics are brought in and kind of tainted that pool, because it's almost like you say impossible to go back. I had somebody on the show the other day, and they were talking about growing land races. Yeah, I grow some land races, and being a little bit of a weed nerd that I am, I'm like, oh yeah, where'd you get those? You know what I mean? Because we're
Yeah.
all looking for a real land race, and it's again, you hear breeders here saying, oh yeah, I'm working on land races and land and trying
Well,
to
in
bring them back. Oh
Kazakhstan,
yeah, well,
In
I'm sorry. Go
Kazakhstan,
ahead.
there's 1,000,000 hectares of land race, and nobody goes there. Nobody has been planting cookies or white widows, nothing. So that's still original. The only sad thing is, like the original history in Afghanistan, whereas the best comes from the north. Now, if you go north from Afghanistan, you go through Kyrgyzstan, which is small, and then you get to Kazakhstan. But I think when China was growing so much hemp for making all these billions of blue little suits for all the Chinese. The president in Russia, because Kazakhstan used to be Russian, figured, whoa, that can happen in Kazakhstan also. And that he brought hemp there, and that diluted the original stronger hash that might have been growing there. I don't know. I don't know. But it's definitely land race.
It's I think the term here anymore is just kind of very loosely used. I mean, land race in my mind, it takes, generations and generations of being in that area, just naturally it doing it itself. So when I hear a breeder tell me, "Oh, I'm breeding in land races," that's what I kind of mean. It's like, "Oh yeah, hey, you pretty much just cut out a couple of acres somewhere and you're just letting it go and for years and years and what it should be. I'm starting a land race, you know what I mean? This I'm just going to let it go for 5 years and then test it out and come back in a few years, at least 5 years, and see where nature's taking it that way. Yeah, that's starting a land race, but
don't
I don't
don't
think just letting a few
don't do it
males
then.
go in a I'm sorry,
Don't,
Amelia.
okay, sorry. I was going to say
No,
don't do
no.
it anywhere close to a hemp field because you'd be surprised after 5 years what it had turned into. That's exactly what happened in Switzerland when it became more or less legal for them to grow up there. The guys would come to Holland and buy a kilo of seeds, a lot of money, take it back to Switzerland, sow an acre, a couple of acres, but they didn't want to do that every year. So they just collected their own seeds. But the thing was, 10 miles down the road, there were still Swiss hemp farmers. So after about 7 years, the hemp farmers were pissed off because there was too much THC in their hemp. And the weed growers were pissed off because now there was not enough THC and too much CBD in there. So you don't want those to really grow right next to each other.
And something I was going to mention on the land races, there are people who are traveling around and collecting seeds on site. I know of people who are doing that in India And I've heard of people doing that in Thailand, in Vietnam, in certain African places. So those are land races. If you can get your hands on seeds like that, then you're playing with something that is original.
I know this guy, Fritz, he does that. And he was up at the Emerald Cup even with his seeds. I don't know who was lucky enough to meet up with him. But he had traveled everywhere to Vietnam, and I think he was even up in northern Pakistan and all over the place, try and collect more land races.
Yeah, and carrying a few thousand of each. He did a good job. I was impressed.
Well, I do understand they're out there. I just don't believe they're as ready available and
No, we have to be
credible.
lucky.
I'll just say credible. I don't think that they're as credible as a lot of the people that may be selling them are giving credit for it. So I do have some questions here from Che. I guess I could field for a second. The one is regarding your thoughts on Soap Bar 90 generation hash. It was rubbish, but I wonder if she thinks what she thinks about those days. Those who traded it in was your thoughts on that.
That was exactly the hash that was being sold in coffee shops here when I came back from India. And it comes from Morocco. And it was terrible. That's why I wanted to start making my own hash. And whatever I was growing was going to be better than the soap bars. No, they weren't much good.
They were of different
It
varying
doesn't.
quality. If you could get your hands on the gold seal, it wasn't that bad.
I can't even imagine seeing living in that time, or where hash was that readily available. It's just a different time for me to imagine.
Mind you, though, I was down in Morocco in 65 or 66, I forget now. And at that time, there was no hash in Morocco. Everybody smoked what they called was keef. And it was buds chopped up very fine together with black tobacco chopped up very fine. And that's what they'd smoke in these long pipes with this tiny little clay head at the end. They were just one hitters. But there was no hash there at that time because it was the people coming back from the east, from Pakistan, India, Afghanistan. They taught the Moroccans how to make hash. And now it's one of the biggest hash producing countries in the world.
It's a different hash. I enjoy some old world Moroccan hash, that's for sure. A little more particulate, a little more plant matter in there, a little more, but still good. I love the terp profiles on some old world Moroccan hash here. There was a gentleman here at the Detroit Cup at the last here in Michigan, and I think he did just as well as everybody else. He had, I mean, you could almost see some of the plant matter in the hash, but boy, it just smelled so good, and you could tell that he took so much pride in what he was doing. That I actually some friends. I lost some friends, and they said, I'm like, where were you guys? And they were like, man, there's this guy over here that's got some old Agani hash. You have to go back. And I'm like, you guys went over there without me? They're like, yeah, we've been over there for. I'm like, man, I've been looking for you a half hour. So I broke off and headed back that way, and he was already tearing down, and he was such a nice gentleman. He brought it back out a lot of stuff, and because he could see my how much I do love hash, and he brought some back out and sold me some, and man, I that was one hash I did treasure for a minute because I knew I wasn't going to get any of it again for a few a bit, but usually I power right through that stuff. But that stuff, that in particular hash, I got like 4 grams of it, and I did nurse it a little bit. because it was something I wasn't gonna be able to obtain for a minute, but
The
uh,
real,
definitely
the
some
real, yeah.
good.
I was just going to say the real old school hash. Yeah.
Is that so much? It's a different profile for sure, a different effect, and it's more full body. I think it's more you can sit back and enjoy it. Full, rich smoke, that real thick hash smoke you get from that old type hash right there. I'm a
It's a
fan.
different process to win it off the plant also. They let it dry on the plant and then they tap it. So they make bundles of the plants, stand them up and tap them on the floor and the crystals fall off. They do this in very cold room, obviously. And then what they gather up, sometimes they'll sift it to clean it up, but that's why you might find some plant matter also. It's a different process. Sorry. I like my
Oh
Moroccan.
no, I appreciate you joining in. You don't have to be off camera. You'd be more than welcome to get in on this if you'd
Well,
like.
my
That's for
mom's
sure.
been trying to make this museum, and the first really make it my living room addition was a big empty space there. She gave away her living room couch this morning, so we've run out of spaces.
So now there's a big empty space and no couch. But tomorrow a new one is coming. The thing is, I'd had this couch for 10 years and always sit on the same spot. So it gets a bit like that. But it'll be fine in the museum for another 5 years. But I'm getting a new one.
And for now, well, without the computer and without the couch, you have to just make do with hello and hear my voice in the background.
Yeah, because this is just a chair. It's a bit tight for the two of us.
Yeah, and I
Right.
don't think the
Well,
camera can.
could you at least introduce yourself? I know you introduced yourself to me off camera, but you are one of this amazing woman's daughters, and so could you please at least tell everybody who you are?
I am number one daughter. Number one daughter being Milushka. And I've been very privileged to be along on most of this crazy ride. I got there before the boutique, I got there before the tea house. I hit the road with her, and it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride. And since
Well,
lately, we're
it's
trying to get into social media, and I'm backing her up on this one.
Yeah, she helps me with
well,
the Instagram and all that stuff.
well, it's got to be nice that you two. It's not too often when a parent can be a great friend with a child, and it's awesome that you've been able to be, each other's friend and confidant through this whole journey. It's pretty awesome that you guys obviously have been a tight knit family through this whole journey, which makes
Well,
it even more amazing.
it's not like these kids all still live with me, huh? She doesn't either. But they'll all come and visit. Yeah.
Well, they're definitely not far, that's for sure, and
No,
definitely
no.
a part of the family. I remember I was listening to a story earlier, and you were actually describing her. I believe it was in Holland. You were talking about you guys were in Holland there, and they had never seen a blonde hair, blue eyed woman there like your daughter, and they were throwing
No, that
her
was on
lots
the
of.
border of Pakistan. That was on the
Okay,
border between
okay.
Afghanistan and Pakistan. Yeah, that's where that happened.
That's when I was 4 years old. I was still white blonde then. Yeah, lost all that.
So how has the journey affected you? Do you enjoy the plant, the cannabis plant, as much as your mother does? Obviously, uh,
Yes, we smoked together, we've grown together. I fell in love with India even more than she did. I've spent maybe 35 years there out of my life. Um, So the only times I haven't been around her is when I took off and went back there on my own.
Well,
India,
it's nice that you've
India is
had a good
amazing.
guide into it. You know, it's pretty awesome that you've had a great guide into the cannabis world for sure. She's obviously taken you to some amazing places that you may not have been able to enjoy firsthand if it wasn't for the ride with your fabulous mother. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
But I must say that she's the only one of all my four kids that smokes. Doesn't mean I love the others any bit less, you know.
Just a little more of a bigger bond with this one, huh?
Well, we have that bond, yeah, yeah.
We all have different things in
Well,
common with her. She's very well rounded and we all latch on to different parts. Does that
it
make
sounded
sense?
like you. Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Yeah, honestly, it does. It sounds like you guys are all pretty much involved into this journey through the making of the machine and everything. Correct? It's a family affair now.
No, no, no. My son is the only one that works with me, my oldest son. My two youngest
Okay.
ones, they both went to university, and one is getting her PhD and the other got it. But they're not working with my company, and they also don't smoke, but they're great people.
Well, they got the connection to the biology sciences side of it, you know, so
Nice.
studying more exact sciences and bio and stuff like that, where we've gone the other
Love it.
way. But yes,
I
she's had
prefer
some
this way
crazy.
myself.
She had a hemp hotel for years in Amsterdam, and my sister worked there for long, and so did my brother. My brother was running it right until the end. And me, yeah, I was so young when we first went out. It was truly like just coming along for the ride, you know. It's all just happening. And it's funny because I hear her tell the stories, and I flashed on different things at the time, or things that were more impressive to me than now I hear is the actual main storyline, you know. That time that we went up with the sadhus, we'd been living down in Kulu for long, and staying down by the river by the temple. We'd arrived there and we were pretty broke. So we were living in the temple, and when they went up, they were going up to a special temple, which is right up where
Oh,
the
yeah.
Parvati Valley forks away from the main Kulu Valley and it goes up to Manali. And right on the top of this ridge that makes the fork, there's a temple there called Bijli Mahadev, which is it's a Shiva temple, but it's Bijli is lightning, it's electricity. In Hindi, it's electricity, Bijli. So it's the lightning temple. And they have a lingam there that they've had to reshape every time with
A
ghee.
rock.
Yeah, it's a stone lingam. A lingam is like a phallic symbol. It's one of the manifestations of Shiva that is common and easy to put in a temple, you know? So people are used to seeing the lingam in the yoni. So they've got a lingam there, which when something's really special going on and their puja is right up on form, lightning strikes. And it doesn't happen that often, you know? So when we went up there that time, lightning struck. I remember that happening, but I don't remember any of the story. I was 4 years old. I myself have been back up to Manali a lot. And I went one time with a group of very strong Shiva devotees from down in Goa. And they went up there carrying traditional style. They carried up kilos of rice, of fresh vegetables, of atta to take up to the pujari, the priest who is in charge of the temple, at that very temple. So I've gone up there with my son, who was maybe 13 at the time, And it's making my hair stand on end, you know. It was kind of goosebumps as I'm realizing where we are. And I heard that story, and now I'm seeing, and it's fitting with my memory. And we've arrived there, and the first thing to do is to light the sacred fire. It's the big puja day. They've brought a gold trishul, which is the, sorry, my
Just get
story
on
gets
with
too
it.
long. Okay, so to light the fire, one of my friends has called my son over and said, okay, and given him a lump of dough and said, start making pieces. And you've shown him, and you break off bits, and they've got a pile of it going in the middle of the dooney, and they've lit the dooney from my son's jaw dropped. This is how you start the holy fire. And from there, the whole puja is carried on. And I've seen the lingam and had all this memory come back from being there at one of these really holy moments when the lightning struck. And that's when she had her amazing hash rubbed from those plants,
with those
just
guys.
in the valley around the corner. And I know where that is. I know, it was quite a awakening to put all those pieces together when I was up there. There you go. Now you had a whole big story from me. But it fits in. That was the story with this amazing hash that she smoked. I didn't smoke it. I was 4 years old, but I remember the lightning striking.
And I forgot to mention the lightning striking, but that wasn't a. Yeah, and usually these holy guys are dressed in maroon or natural color, but these were all dressed in black, and they'd gone up there especially to invoke the lightning struck.
Man, that sounds like an amazing time. And that's just one little slice into the Hash Queen's little adventures here. I mean, what a great life you've lived. What a full, great life you lived. And
Wow, I
can't
don't know
imagine.
your age. I don't know your age. I'm 75 now. So you still got, I would imagine, plenty of years to get just go and travel also sometime.
Well, I'm 48, ma'am. I'm 48, and you're way ahead of me. You're way ahead of me. I would, at this point, just have to just drop what I'm doing and just start world traveling to even compare. And I don't think I'd even at that point catch up to be able to live some of these.
And nowadays, everybody flies every there. Man, it took us 3 months to get there.
But this is where we got to. This is her with at least 3 of her kids already. Let's see, am I kind of in the right area for the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Woods all the way around. This is up in Manali. This is maybe 1 or 2 days walk away from that temple that I mentioned. This is near our house. Just to give you
What a beautiful setting.
Life in the mountains.
What a nice life that would be. I mean, away from the hustle and bustle and just all taking in natural beauty. It must have been an awesome time to grow up, to be honest with you, and live through that.
In the 60s, there was also a big movement. I was fed up. You know, our parents were, after the war, working so hard to make life good again. And it was like crazy. I didn't agree, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It was too much control they were trying to get, and laws, and no smoking this and no doing that. And we just wanted to get away to a place where we could just do our thing and be left to do it, and not have to conform all the time.
And in the early days,
what a beautiful place to do it.
When she first got to India, they still had shops for the sadhus that you could go and buy tolas of hash or even some of that dodgy wheat from the south.
And opium and booze.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 3 things: hash, opium, and booze.
I'd stick with the hash myself. Ian Chat here is, he says, I wonder if Amelia can touch on the best medical or pain effects of hash. Does smoking CBD hash have benefits? Moroccan or any other hash plants that have high CBD?
I don't know. Personally, I know exactly what he's talking about. At 75, you all got aches and pains. I find CBD cream to be the most instantly working. Like if I get a pain in my shoulders now and I put on CBD cream, it'll be going away within 30 minutes. I don't really like the effect of smoking it too much. You can't get high if you smoke CBD. It kind of blocks the getting high part.
The thing is, we get a combination of it in the hash. There's always CBD there. It's just the percentages are different. And when the percentages get higher on CBD, yeah, you
It
are
gets
starting to
more,
hit the medicinal side effects more. Like I said, I broke my leg last year, and besides vaping, the Moroccan hash that I'd made, the rosin that I made the vape pens from, was very high in CBG. And right after that, I started to read a lot of articles about CBG being one of the prime cannabinoids to help you rebuild, but also to strengthen the bones. And that was exactly what I needed at that time. So I do feel that, that really helped me. Besides that, it got me through 6 weeks, 7 weeks nearly of not smoking a joint. That was a first. And yeah, it really helped. I knocked all the painkillers on the head within about a week. They'd given me some form of some opiate, I can't even remember which one it was, that made me throw up the first day I took it. So I stopped taking that, and then you had a whole strain because my knee was in pieces. And within a week, I was just vaping like a maniac. The odd, what was it? Not an aspirin, something to go to sleep with, painkiller. So yeah, I'm a big
So
believer. It kills the pain.
I'm almost curious that do you contribute to the hash, smoking the hash all this time to the longevity of life? I mean, 75 is a nice age, and you're still hustling. You're still traveling and very full of life for sure. Do you contribute that to the smoking and being around the cannabis plant?
yes, yes, yes. I don't know exactly. I always used to think I'm only smoking recreational, none of all this medicinal stuff. But now I must realize after 55 years of smoking, I have never seriously been ill. One time I had something with my heart, but that was genetic. So, but I think it's been my medicine my whole life without me realizing it. I have no sugar, no diabetes, no nothing. Nothing is really wrong with me. I can move all my arms and limbs. I cycle every day for nearly an hour, and
That
I've always been
definitely is
active
key. Staying active.
as as a mom with 4 kids. You're just active all the time, and that's a habit hard to lose. So, yeah, I'm a pretty active person, and that helps. I think it's the person who just sits in their chair and whatever that, yeah, what do they say? You don't use it, you lose it. So
Yeah.
I use it. In fact, sometimes I'll just turn on some music in the evening and just dance. Nobody can see it. I make sure I do plenty of stretching and like that and go through the knees. I love dancing as my sport. One time the BBC did a whole review about what is the best food to get old and stay healthy, and what is the best sports to do. So the food, I figured a vegan diet gave you the best chance of reaching a ripe old age without being too sick. And funnily enough, they said dancing is the best sports because you're using everything, and it also makes you happy to dance, happier than if you're jogging 5 miles, you know. So I do that
I
and
can
just
see
make
that.
sure I move a lot.
That's awesome. You do well, whatever you're doing, you have a good recipe. I would definitely stick with whatever you're doing. That's for sure.
I'm not a vegan, by the way. I'm pretty much a vegetarian, but I'm not a vegan.
I have to agree with you there. I could see how being a vegan would probably take you a little bit longer in life, but I believe you're definitely sacrificing some good flavors. So I would be much happier being a vegetarian than the vegan, I guess.
Actually,
Just a little bit more
actually,
enjoyment there.
actually, tonight I'm going to eat some salmon. I like that also. You know, I, I used to be very strict about what I would eat and all these things. And now I don't want to be fanatic about anything. I just want to do what, and I feel if my body is craving to eat salmon, there must be something that it's craving in the salmon. You know, it's been around long enough. All these years, it's figured out what's good for my body at which time. So if my body says salmon, okay, salmon it is.
A friend of mine here in chat, Warlock, would like to know what are your preferences in smell and in flavor?
I like a
Like,
more sweeter flavor. What I don't like is the taste that comes with what's that called? Diesel. It really tastes like diesel. I hate the stuff. Or I don't like the taste of it. So maybe that's more than what I do like. I just don't know all the varieties you guys have over there. It should be a bit sweet. I like that.
well, in all fairness, what we have over
Mainly,
here may not be your favorite, and that was kind of the question. Was your favorite? So if you don't know it or you never smelled it, it can't quite possibly be a favorite. So, what is available to you that you would call a favorite?
in the coffee shop, sometimes I have to go to the coffee shop. I can't even afford what I would really like to smoke. But these are the things people
Which would
make
be
for
the
me.
isolator. Which would be the isolator. That's for sale in a coffee shop, but she can't. And I tell you, the
I
prices
don't
are
want to. I don't
ridiculous.
want to spend that amount of money on my house.
Oh, I think that goes for anybody that has been on this end of it, the cultivator end. You
Yeah,
know, if you go, I for myself, I grow, but there's times where I'm out of town or whatnot, and I just need a little bit. And you go in there, and you're like, "Holy cow!" You know, I grow this, right? It isn't that bad. What are you doing for this markup? It's always painful to go into a shop and
yeah,
to be
yeah.
on that end of it, for sure.
And then the isolator they
Uh,
have isn't even very good. People get
well, that's
greedy and
that's terrible.
people get greedy. They turn the pollinator too long till it starts going green. And the same with the isolator. You know, just keep the water very cold. Don't wash it too much.
It's it's one of those things. Really, I think the extractors are taking it to the next level, or trying to take
Yes.
all of the good
Yeah.
isolator hash and turn it into rosin. So the actual full spectrum isolator hash isn't available on the shelves anymore because the next
Yeah.
extractor is trying to press it into rosin. You know, they
Well, I
don't
must
leave some
say,
for us that enjoy it.
I prefer the rosin nowadays to all that BHO that they used to make. I didn't like that with all that gas in there. It somehow, even when they cleaned it, you could always kind of taste it. Yeah. So the rosin, I don't mind
Well,
so much. It's a drag to make a joint with because it's so bloody sticky usually, but that's the advantage with water hash. You can just roll it and put it in your joint. Anyway,
for
both.
me, you've already. Sorry. For me,
Sorry.
you've already covered both of my bases. I'm not a hydrocarbon fan. It's it's too much process, too much equipment. It's too dangerous. Uh, so you've covered both of my methods. Basically, I prefer an isolator hash, but some don't wash well. Some strains don't wash well, and for that, I guess that I've always turned to a strain that doesn't wash well for me. I know to dry sift it, and you've got the pollinator for that or a dry sift method.
Yeah.
So why go hydrocarbon and bring all that mess and dangerous into my it's just a
But
who wants to buy a tubes, an oven, put all those chemicals in the air, risk your life for a decent hash when you can just naturally do it. And it's better, I think, that you get all the terps and everything right there. And there's a lot of ways naturally you can work it to a further step, through or temple balls and stuff like that, to take it to another stage if you wanted to. Even pressing it into rosin, like you've mentioned. Why risk your life to get another extraction method? Not for me.
with the extraction and with the rosin, the only difference is that they have removed the tiny layer of cellulose that is around each trichome, and you only get the inside, so that you can dab. And as soon as these very thin covers of the trichomes of cellulose are still in there, you can dab, but it'll make your pipe very dirty quite quickly. So people don't like to dab just isolator hash or dry sift hash because of that reason. Then you're better off, I guess, making the rosin, because that also removes that cellulose.
Again, not up my genre. I would much rather run around with a nice ball of some hash or some sift and not have to drag around a $500 rig and a torch to enjoy some good extract. I can break up some nice hash and put it in a joint pretty much anywhere. Not have to worry about burning myself or burning down the house because I've set down a hot torch anywhere. I don't think I'm missing anything by this method of hash by any means. Them people. In fact, I've seen that's the other thing. Them dab rigs in that hydrocarbon method. You've seen what builds up in them rigs. You know what I mean? That glass sheet. And I'm like, what? That's gotta be happening in your lungs. No, I'll pass. I've yet to see some of that buildup in my hash pipe. You know what I mean? There's just something that you know what the funny thing about that is, as we do more and more research, they're finding more medical benefits in what's left over in that hash pipe. The further down the chain, they're like, oh yeah, this CBD, and there's lots of good stuff in there. We're actually can utilize the reclaim from this type of hash to where that other type of hash, it's like, oh no, that's I'll stick to this. Yeah, for
Me
sure.
too. Me too.
I just don't think them guys are again going to be running around and half as active at your age as they will be at that age. I think their lungs are going to be in a little bit worse shape. They're not going to be getting around as good. So.
Yeah, nobody knows what will happen when they do that for the next 10 years.
So Elliot Harkins would like to know, what is your favorite variety of hash, if you don't mind sharing.
Oh my God, oh my God.
It looks something like that right now. I don't know if this can get focused, but it's what's available. It's great.
I can understand
strain
that.
is it?
It's Moroccan and it's Rolex maybe? No, it's not Rolex. It's too much. They've
Do
started to
you
bring
prefer?
these American strains down to Morocco, and then we get things here like an amnesia, a Moroccan amnesia, or things like that. And this one, I'm not sure. I think it might have been Rolex or something like that.
I think my coffee shop also has some cookie combination.
Yeah.
I think what they may be going with that question there is, maybe do you prefer more of a blonde style hash, or maybe something that's a little more red and oxidated? Yeah, I think that may be the question there as far as the style of hash.
Yeah, blonde hash. I usually don't like the very dark ones because what makes it dark is just the chlorophyll that came along with it, the plant matter.
But saying that, if I could produce a bit of Afghani right now, it would be very dark and
It
she
would
would
be
be
very
very
dark,
happy.
yeah.
Right out.
Yeah, a beautiful piece of
Do you find
Afghani.
some strains work better in than other in one type of, like say the dry set method, or do you think there's some strains that are just better washed than sifted?
With the washing, it's very important to keep adding ice, not just to have it cold in the beginning, but when it stops clinking inside the washing machine, you should add more ice. And I think many people forget this.
Well, he's asking though as if there's a particular strain that you've come across that was really good. The thing is, when we first started to use the machines, orange bud was the thing that was going. And by the time all the other people were coming over here, all the Americans coming with all the seeds and starting their seed companies here and all this stuff, she'd already stopped growing, or that's just when she stopped growing and started producing her machines. So she doesn't have that much personal hands-on experience of different strains washing better or things like that. I know the amnesia washes well. I've had a lot of people tell it to me, and I think that's why it became so popular over Morocco side.
I like, if it's available, I like sativas. In Holland, it's pretty much impossible. Nobody grows sativas, so I just haven't been around very much of it. But a few times that I've had a good, yeah, that I really like that. I wouldn't really know the names of the which ones that was. I'm
Well,
pretty bad at that.
basically, me myself, I find in my hash experience anyway, I find that the sativas for me are seem to be better sifted because of the smaller trichome heads, and they seem to be a little bit more brittle. Versus like the indica strains have a bigger trichome head, and for me are usually better washed. Is how I viewed it here in my experience. And I was just kind
Okay.
of wondering if that you found something similar to that, or if indicas are what are easily sifted. There's just such a big head there that with the indica, that I don't seem like it would be easily sifted, but it just I don't know, better utilized through a wash method, easier caught. I mean, I prefer to sift the sativas because, like I said, they seem to just the heads are smaller and they seem to just dissipate in the water. You know, I don't seem to be able to catch them as well in the water
You need finer
where the
bags.
indicas catch.
You'd need
Finer
finer
bags.
bags. um, there's also many other things that influence it. Like nowadays, apparently it's very popular to do this fresh frozen, and the crystals that I saw when I was had a bunch of fresh frozen were still totally white. Now, in my experience, when we would harvest, there would be about 10% of the crystals going golden. And one time, right in the beginning, when I started growing in Amsterdam, I actually had an Afghan friend come over, and I proudly showed him my little attic with 9 lamps in it. And he was very impressed by the size of the buds because, of course, they didn't know anything about nutrients when they were growing wheat for thousands of years. It just came. And the buds outside in the wind and growing on sandy soil. They don't make big fat buds like we did indoors. And then I said to him, "Oh, yeah, we're chopping it down tomorrow." And he looked at me and he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, over here, people mainly smoke weed. And as a weed smoker, I've kind of understood that this is the right moment then to harvest." And then after thinking about it, I asked him, "Well, when will you chop it? Because you would use it only for making hash." And he said, "About 2 more weeks." So by that time, I imagine most of the crystals have gone golden. And also the CBD might be slightly increased. Now, I know it's true that in all these land races, there's much more CBD than in the seeds that get grown by seed breeders. I don't know how it is nowadays, but like 10, 15 years ago, every seed breeder, and I only know most of all the Dutch ones, were all growing mainly for THC and trying to get rid of as much CBD as they could. And I'm not sure, but for me, that might have led to many teenagers getting psychological problems from smoking weed because it was a bit of an imbalance. I'm thinking now that when you look at all these land races, they had 3-4% CBD. And I don't know one Afghan, Nepali, Indian, Turkish kid that used to get psychological problems from smoking that hash. So something to think.
Yeah, it's a very good something to think about because anxiety is something that is very rampant here with the younger smokers. And I believe you're right. You're on exactly right on that path. We've taken so much time to weed out the CBD that it isn't
Exactly.
prevalent in a lot of strains.
That
So,
for especially for younger people who are more easily influenced by these things, I guess it can be too much to handle. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a theory. But I remember also one time I went to meet our Minister of Health, and I took with me a bud, a microscope, and a bud, and some good, I think, dry sift at that time. And I wanted to convince him because at that moment in Holland, there was weed giving out for medical purposes to patients. And I tried to convince him that giving them just the crystals would be easier to make doses and easier in many ways. But he didn't think so because I didn't have a university degree. So he immediately cut it off. But I told him, I said it'd be a very interesting research to do for you. I said, take 1,000 or 5,000 people who smoke and take as many people who don't. And I said, have them write down for 6 months all which medication they are taking. And I said, I'm 100% guaranteed that the people who are using weed or hash will be taking a lot less medication. I know myself, if I feel bad in any way, I'll smoke a joint and usually I'll feel okay again. And, you know, I mean, it's mainly people that don't smoke that take sleeping pills and waking up pills and God knows how many pills for everything. And I think smokers don't do it to that extent. I said it'd be great for all the health insurances, but he said he didn't think that was a good research. Although I really believe it, that actually all these health insurances should be happy with their smoking hash and weed customers because they're not coming every few weeks to get some medication for whatever they take. I went to the hospital last year one time to get a general checkup, and they gave you 2 pages to fill in what you were all taking. So I didn't fill in anything. And she's like, wait, you have to write down what medications you're taking. I said, I'm not taking any. And she looked at me. And I really believe that's the key to success.
I think you're on the exact right keys there for sure. And I want to, before I ask my next question, Chiba Man here in chat says, look at that 75-year-old woman, roll that J. And, you know, I might not be able to match adventures with you at your age, but one thing is for sure. I hope that I am 75 and still fucking rolling joints. Just like no tomorrow. Yeah, I've been sitting here, you know, I enjoy smoking myself, but I have very much enjoyed the fact, you know, I've encouraged most guests to smoke along. So this is a casual, you know, relaxed type atmosphere as it is. But I've watched you roll 3 joints through this, you know, 3 hash joints through this. And that's pretty awesome. I think that is just, you're right on par with me. I mean, that's 75 and just enjoying cannabis and hash at its best. And I think that's awesome. I do believe that is a very key part of life, to be honest with you. I'm you know, not that old. I like to think I'm not that old, 48. I think I'm still very young. But I don't drink. You know, I've tried to stay a little bit on the better side of life. But in comparison to people that I went to school with that went down that other road, they look horrible. They look horrible for people but you know, people that's utilize the cannabis plant, they seem to be so young and full of life, you know, through all the stages that they've utilized the plant.
So, yeah.
And it's so.
No,
Do
it's
you
really,
besides?
Like I always say, it was
using,
love at. Oh, sorry.
You go ahead, please.
I was going to say.
That's what I was talking about in the beginning with Zoom. You can do. It's easy to do that. It's my fault. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, it was love at first talk. That time, years ago, when I had my first joint, immediately I was hooked.
That was my dad trying to do a nice experiment there for his medicine studies at the time. Picked a guinea pig. That's how she started.
Did he know that it was going to end up in this? Did he know what he was starting there?
Can you imagine if he had known? I don't know if he'd ever have given it anything to her, man. He definitely
today especially with the title of Hash Queen. Would he have ever seen that coming? from that one puff that years down the road she would be labeled hash queen. That's
It's weird.
that's kind of funny.
It's something I had never imagined, of course. My whole life, I had never imagined that happening. And I still have a hard time getting used to it sometimes.
So is hash the only? Do you consume cannabis in other ways? Do you use edibles? I heard you mentioned a little bit, like say topicals and creams that can be very effective.
I have
But do
some,
you consume cannabis edibles and stuff like that?
maybe once or twice a month, but not on a regular basis. They usually tend to put me to sleep. So even if I take one in the afternoon, I'll just fall over and fall asleep. So sometimes if I can't sleep and I have some edible, I'll take it for that reason mainly.
I completely love the answer that you just said. Maybe once or twice a month, but not regularly. Most people, most people that would qualify to be somewhat regularly. Once or twice a month would be pretty regular.
Well, it's not like on a daily basis like my smoking hash. That's on a daily
Okay,
basis.
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So I'm curious to know when the bags, the isolator bags, came into play, and kind of why. I mean, you had a good system going with the dry sift. It was pretty much what you were accustomed to as far as hash went. What kind of made you to go to dip your feet into the water extraction?
Well, we got in contact with Ken Morrow. I don't know if that name means anything. He did a lot of research lately on terpenes, or rather already 10 years ago before anyone else got into it. But through him, I first heard about using water to separate. But then it was just in a glass, it wasn't with ice. I remember with my friend Annie Rieken, we'd put a glass and then put in a few spoonfuls of ground up leaves and then stir it. And yes, slowly, the crystals would fall down because that's the only thing heavier in the water. The leaves float, the ice floats, but the crystals will come down. And then later there was this American guy who invented this machine. And he had a stainless steel drum with a plastic hanging underneath with a bottle and a screen in the middle. And that worked, but he was getting them made in Yugoslavia. And so they all broke. So I got to sell them. And so everybody get mad at me. And I really started thinking about that and just wished I could come up with a method that I could put it in an envelope. And I think it must have been because of having been a tailor that when I started thinking how to hang a screen horizontal in water, how can you achieve that? So then a bag is not too far distant. As a tailor anyway, you quite quickly think of that. So I made the first few on my own sewing machine to try it out, and it worked. And then I got a tailor and then made more in quantity. Yeah.
Definitely
It's
an
funny when she
ingenious
was
idea
talking.
for sure.
It was funny when she was talking to Frenchy Canoli last time. He immediately perked up his ears when she mentioned this machine, this first one with the big stainless steel drum. And he said, yeah, it was the screen. The screen kept breaking in the middle. And that was part of, that was the thin screen in the middle of this weird contraption.
Yeah, for me, most of it, because this plastic funnel at the bottom was glued in the wrong way. So they would always split open within 6 months and all the water and everything would fall out. Anyway, I just wanted to not have to send big machines around and just have something that you could put in an envelope. And of course, that was the bags you could put in an envelope.
Oh, that makes perfect sense,
think-
to be honest with
I
you.
think being a single mom for so long, you have so many problems to solve. You get to think to what you can make out of what you have, and maybe a little bit of thinking outside the box. So the same with a washing machine. I'm sure a guy would never have thought to start using a washing machine, but in actual fact, they're wonderful. They were designed to get your dirty socks clean. So long as you have cold water and ice in your washing machine, it does a perfect job. And all the crystals will be in the runoff water within a few minutes. And then the runoff water you can put through a bag. And that's how you can catch them.
This, of course, is the third machine in the line, the bubbleator, which kind of combines. If she didn't mention this time, I remember.
Yeah, it's a bubbleator. We have isolator bags, and the bubbleator is the washing machine. And we have little washing machines that you can wash up to 350 grams of material. And then we have big washing machines that you can do a kilo in. As with the pollinators, we have a shaker you can do 5 grams in. And we have a big pollinator you can do 10 pounds in at a time. So, yeah. And the bags also small, medium, large, big.
Nice. How long will you get out of the screens out of the pollinator? Is there? And I guess that's another question I have. Is there different screen types, or is it just one size?
With the dry sift, we practically always make one size, the 150 micron. Then if you turn longer and green comes through, we would give you another bag of 72 micron. And then you could put your pollinator stuff that you had turned too long in there and just shake it around a bit, and everything that is smaller than crystals would fall out. So then you would get a pure product. Yeah, I always say if you do the perfect job separating the crystals and look under a microscope, it should look like caviar. There shouldn't be any other shapes in there at all. No little sticks, no little green specks. But people always want to get a lot, so. And I always tell them, well, whatever you got more is what you actually didn't want.
I'm surprised you're not selling them like hotcakes. I'm sure you are, but with the rosin extraction, a lot of people are using a lot more sift and pressing into rosin. So have you, since the invention of rosin, have you noticed an increase in sifting machines?
Definitely during this Corona period, we've been going crazy. I mean, we have a big warehouse. So there was only 3-4 guys working there. So it was no problem to keep distance. But they've been working hard and we're getting a lot of orders now, but not many from the States. The problem with the States, the last time somebody ordered one of these P5000 for 500 grams of material, it was the cost of the machine nearly to ship it. So that makes them rather expensive over there. With the bags, it's different, but there's so many people making bags over there. I don't send all that many bags to the States. And the washing machines over here are all made 220. So I have to order a whole container to get washing machines 110. So I'd have to be sure I got a lot of people ordering. Otherwise, I'm stuck with it. Pollinators is good. There's usually a switch on the motors. You can do 110 and 220. You just have to put on a different plug. Yeah.
Well, we're still catching up here as far as, quality has. We're still stuck on flour. If you don't mind me saying, we're ass backwards here. we're we're still stuck on flour trying to go to hash where you guys have been, hash all this time and knowing the way. We're still catching up here. We're still catching up. So it doesn't sound
it's
like
also,
you're hurting by not
it's also
actually
true what
tapping
I
into this.
said, that people out of their 350 grams, they'll complain. I said, I only got 15 grams. He said, I did it more. So now at least I got 50 grams. But then when you look at the difference, he should have stuck when he got 15 grams. That was beautiful. And the 50 grams was, okay, different.
Yeah, I agree. Quality, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder. I guess. For me, in either the water method or the dry, quick is better. You know what I mean? I just don't sit there and beat up your material. Quick runs are the best. Who wants to go back and clean up
Yeah.
material out of what you worked so hard to get?
Yeah.
Me myself, I do prefer to do would rather couple quick sifts and then do maybe an alcohol extraction for some RSO or something after that. But take the good stuff and run. Don't just beat it and try to work it backwards after that.
He said, I talk to my son sometimes. He's a pharmaceutical chemist. And he said, alcohol is better. He didn't like all those gases. He said, there is no gas that doesn't contain heavy metals. So nobody really knows the effect because heavy metals never leave your body. So he prefers the alcohol method then.
That's good to know, to be honest with you. That's very good to know.
That's why I'm telling you.
Well, and that makes me it brings out another curiosity too. Here is a lot of the, I've seen this a lot here in Michigan, that for stuff that doesn't test well before it hits the market, that's the next step, is they're sending it off to the hydrocarbon guys to clean up and pull out all the bad stuff and make an extract out of it. And if you're like you're saying, if there's heavy metals and stuff, that's the thing that confuses me. They say they could pull out some of the heavy metals, but like you're saying, the gases themselves have heavy metals in it. So doesn't sound like a good bet. Either way, to me, when they say they're taking it in to be cleaned up, it's like, well, it sounds like a not a very good material to start with if you're taking it in to be cleaned up through a hydrocarbon method. Shouldn't it just be?
It was perfect when you started with it. It was completely natural and everything. Yeah. But I must say, it's a good thing. It's a good thing there's progress also. Okay, maybe they went through a phase that I didn't like so much what was produced, but with the rosin's better. And now I think, man, I saw pictures of machines that cost like $500,000. I would assume they make something really nice. I don't know. I never had any of them.
So, which are some of you mentioned your cannabis event there, or your daba? Excuse me, I've got a terrible cotton mouth. The daba.
Dabadoo. Oh, Dabadoo. Yeah.
The Dabadoo. Thank you. Thank you. I had terrible cotton mouth. Uh, tell us about that, and then maybe go on a little bit about some of your other favorite events there that you like to go to.
So, wait, we were.
The Dabadoo was a birthday party.
Yeah, but we were talking about something before. I just wanted to add something. We'll get to the Dabadoo. Anyway, okay. We'll go to the Dabadoo. I had been in the States a few times to, among others, to the Chalice Cup. which is totally wonderful, magnificent, and greatest event I've ever really been to, with music and art, and even hash is a big item there. Their last one was for music, art, hash, and something else, but it was actually on their banners. So there they had this hash competition. So everybody who feels good enough enters, and then everybody, you separate it so that the people who are going to be judging it, they buy judges tickets. We used to give them 0.1 gram of every hash, and sometimes you'd have 20 or 30 entries, sometimes only 15. And so people all come together. Usually it's a 1 day affair, and they get like 5 hours to test it all. And then they have to come out with the winners for the non-solvent category, for the solvent category, and for the rosin category. But in South America, several times it's become like 2 day affairs. Like in Mexico, actually the guy, he came to the Dabadoo in Colombia, this Mexican guy. And that was quite a marvelous one. They rented a helicopter to fly over the jungle to take me to the Dabadoo. And then they rented the helicopter the whole day. So most of the people who came to the Dabadoo, they all went up for a few minutes and had a talk and came down. So this Mexican guy was there, and he said, "Hey, I want to make a Dabadoo in Mexico." I said, "Well, you can see what we're all doing. We're all smoking a lot of hash." I said, "If you find a place in Mexico where we can do that with no problems," I said, "we'll do it." And sure enough, he found a place. And 4 months later, we had one in Mexico on top of a mountain at an extreme sports center where you could do paragliding. And I actually paraglided off that mountain with a buddy behind me. That was amazing. It was the first time I'd been in a helicopter and the first time I'd ever paraglided. Two momentous events. Yeah, so in Colombia, they're often 2 days affair. Like last year, the one in Colombia was on this tropical island off the coast of Colombia. It was like a 1.5 hour in a motorboat to get there. And that was magic. It was just so peaceful in a way, and all these pelicans flying by. And there was a little gazebo out in the water. You had to kind of walk 50, 100 yards out in the water and get to this gazebo, which was the only place you could sometimes get Wi-Fi. But along that little path down below, because it was kind of shallow, it seemed to be like a baby location for fish. And you could see little baby rays and baby swordfish. It was just spectacular. But it was just beautiful. And the smoke they had was great. And they had the cooking there was great, man. Fishermen would land with like enough lobsters for everybody. There was 100 people there, and crabs and everything. The girl who arranged the cooking there, she got the special Dabadoo prize for the best Dabadoo cook. It was fantastic, all the food she organized. Anyway, so they're usually quite, and the one in Peru was great. It was just like a big, was more like a going dancing event. And there they had like 5 glass blowing torches going 24 hours a day for a week. The Dabadoo there lasted a week. And there was about 15 glass blowers, so they don't take turns. And a lot of nice dancing music. The one in Costa Rica was actually quite small, even though double the amount of people came than they were expecting. So that was good. But there, everything has to be very secretive. Mind you, because they didn't have to, I had a fantastic time with them. Costa Rica is the only place that we actually traveled around, and we went up in one of these cable cars over the jungle, and we went down to the coast and stayed for a couple of nights. And Costa Rica is beautiful.
How long ago was the paragliding? I'm just curious. It couldn't have been that long ago.
I think it was 2017, maybe. Yeah, maybe
Oh,
18.
aren't
I
you
think
fucking
7.
awesome? That's completely awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And
She
you're
couldn't she couldn't say no after the guys turned around and said, "Oh yeah, I did this with my grandmother the other day." And it's like,
Yeah, he was the guy who was going to do the jumping with me. Yeah, no, it was great.
that's I
It's
bet. I
beautiful.
bet that
It
the
gives you the most
adrenaline from
feeling of what
something like
it
I'm
gives you the
sorry, I
most.
cut you off.
Yeah. We have to make a sign to each other. Now I'm going to talk. Now you're going to talk. It gave me the most feeling of what it must be like to be an eagle, to just float up there. You know, there's no noise, hardly. Yeah, yeah.
we had a house up in the mountains at one point while all the kids were in school, and it was right along the tip of a ridge again. But below there, the valley kind of curved away, and the eagles love playing with these thermals. So they would always come, and they would come right past the house where if you could just
Just
reach
past
out,
the windows.
you
Yeah.
could see the feathers as they just kind of spread them and tilted around the corner. Amazing to watch them. So yeah, there's a lot of connection to this eagle soaring in our lives. That was quite spectacular.
And you're an
Nice.
eagle too.
I'm an eagle too, so I appreciate that reference there 100%. I was flowing the whole time. Uh,
That was totally
so that's
unprompted. Can you believe?
Actually, my oldest son, we used to have this flat rock next to our house in the Himalayas at one place, and he would put a rope around it like a noose and a piece of bread in the middle. And then he would hide in the bushes for hours waiting for this eagle to land. Of course, it never did, but kept him very busy. We have a strong connection with eagles because they live there the whole time. Yeah.
I find that to be awesome. I really do. They're a very majestic bird, and I get to see them a lot. I live in northern Michigan, and I've been pretty blessed to see him here a lot. And there was one not so long ago where he was actually like flying along right along. I was driving on the highway, and he was just hanging out there, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. He was so close that, like you said, I could see a very bunch of feather detail, and a guy in front of me actually about drove off the road watching him. I could see it, and I was like, "Oh, that is so funny." At least I'm not the only one that's caught up in this moment. That's for sure. But
They make it look so easy.
they do. They do.
Soaring, the eagles, they make it look so easy. It's just so yeah, I can relate when she said that. That's the feeling you get.
Well, a bit. The closest I've gotten.
See, there's another thing you know you've got on me right there. You know, I've been bungee jumping. I'd like to parachute, but I've never been paragliding. And but you make it sound very majestic. That's for sure. That's for sure. And,
I
see
wouldn't
what I'm
like to
saying?
parachute.
I've got a lot of catching up to do to even throw in a horseshoe into this ring to be able to compare here. And it's funny because like you hear a lot of the women have a harder time. It seems like you just blew right through this whole lifetime and never having a problem with nothing. And it's awesome. You don't see many people like yourselves, and it's awesome. It's awesome to hear your story, for sure.
For me, it's just normal, so I don't. It's just you kind of think everybody must be like that.
No, but I don't get the chance to talk to people like yourselves that are innovators in several ways, like you pointed out, just to raise four children on your own and stay in one place is tough enough to, but drag a family through the mountains, start several companies, travel the world, not just a little bit but a lot, start some cannabis events, and still be kicking and enjoying life to the fullest is amazing. And you're not even close. You don't even look like you're even close to being checking out anytime soon, and you still look very full of life, and like you're ready to take on the world tomorrow, and I think that's pretty awesome. In fact, with that being said, are there some more Dabadoo events this year, hopefully, that we'll be able to catch up with you? Are you going to
Well,
make it to the States anytime soon? I heard
there was going to
on
be
another
one
interview you like every couple months. Tell me you're not flying over here every couple months.
No, we missed one. There was going to be one in the beginning of April, and we had
Michigan.
in Michigan, but it got
Oh,
canceled.
right in my backyard at that. Please tell me you're coming back to Michigan.
But now they want to do it August, September. So I wrote back, I don't know. At the moment, the idea of sitting in a plane with 400 people for the 7 hours it takes to get there is not appealing at all. So I
Oh,
don't
I
know.
can understand this, but know this: if you come to Michigan, you will be seeing me wherever you go. I will
Okay.
be attending that
I will let
event
you
for
know
sure.
when it finally happens.
Captain Kirk's edible.
That would be amazing.
Captain Kirk, he's the one who's organizing it, and Rory is joining in. I don't know, but I'll let you know if it's gonna happen. I'll let you know ahead of time. Maybe you're gonna
Oh,
enter
please
and
do.
win a prize. You win a Dabadoo prize.
That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome. I would actually just be super stoked to be able to be to get a picture with you, and just
Yeah,
firsthand to
that's
meet
always
you. That would
possible.
be an honor.
That's
So
always possible.
you make it to Michigan, I don't care how far I have to drive to get there. You can count on I'll be at that event for
I
sure.
think it was going to be either in Flint or somewhere around there.
Oh,
Is
that's
that
easy
Flint?
enough. That's 2.5 hours. That's 2 hours. I can do that easy.
Okay. I don't know the final destination now, but I'll let you know. No problem. Be good to see you in person.
Maybe. That's going to be amazing. I am very excited to hear that. To be honest with you, so heck yeah, yeah, awesome. I can't believe you're traveling like that in this time, man. It's got to be harder right now to do a lot of traveling
I
for
think
sure.
now, well, it's me that doesn't want to sit in planes. To South America, you're in there for like 10 hours at least. To California, it's closer to 11, 12 hours, I think. Just don't want to sit that
It's
long
a That's a
with all
long
these
time to
people.
sit. But
Yeah.
are you a window seater?
Huh?
You like when
Are you a window seater?
No, I hate flying, actually.
Oh no.
You
So
know, I know
that makes
technically
it
it's
even better
okay.
that you went parasailing or paragliding. You're afraid to flying and you got out there and flew like a bird. It seemed like at that point, you might have whooped the
In the,
fear.
be-
No?
in the beginning, I was a bit quite scared, actually. You can see it on my face. But then I suddenly realized this is stupid. You know, you can sit here the whole time and be scared or just go and enjoy yourself. You know, ultimately, you create your own environment. I could have stayed scared the whole time, but I willed myself out of being scared. If I,
the funny thing is, this was a few years ago, and it was only a few weeks ago that she handed me a whole bag full of little USB sticks and said, "Can you see what's on there?" And I found the actual film. I'm going to do our first posting, I guess, on YouTube or on IGTV, and I was thinking to put that one on there because it's quite amazing to watch with, you know, just a little GoPro camera.
You just see my face the whole time, so I don't know, but anyway.
But it was cool because I read
would,
about it, but I actually got to see it as well. That was really nice.
it's nice that you're capturing these moments, you know, for to be able to look back on. I can't believe you haven't looked back on them yourself.
I didn't even know it was being made. The guys who organized it all, from my buddy, I guess he must have had a GoPro and put it on. I didn't even know it was getting filmed.
When
I think
found
you know,
the
I love. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, there were three films on there, and just by chance, hers was the first one I turned on, but it didn't say anything. It could have just been anything random. It was lucky I opened each one and everything to see inside what it was. That was priceless to watch. Yeah, very nice. You'll get to see it soon.
She's going to do some. She takes care of all that.
Yeah. I love your perspective about the aspect of, you know, you could be scared and, you know, not, or you could embrace the moment and enjoy life. And it's pretty cool way to approach life all on itself. And I'm sure that's the aspect you've had all the way through. Uh, you know, that's pretty awesome. A lot of people choose the other route to live the safe and secure route. And it's nice to see that you're taking the challenges and living the extreme, getting the most. You know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
But trekking teaches you a lot also. Walking for a month in the mountains, you know, it's indescribable because it's so beautiful, and at the same time it's killing your feet and your back and everything.
It's horrible and it's heavy and then it's cold when you have to sleep and there's
And
no
then
wood
it's too hot and
fire.
everything else. But on the other hand, it's one of my best experiences traveling through the Himalayas on foot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, once again, we were very lucky. The first year, once again, it was just the two of us who walked it the first year with a few friends. And then after her husband saw the pictures that she took, the photographs, he went out and he bought a little 8mm camera and he got recording equipment. We rented horses and we went and did the whole trek again the next year. So there's all this amazing footage of what it's like to go walking. And that's what she was saying is in the DVD, there's some of the footage there of in Mila's journey. There's a DVD that used some of the old footage from the mountains in the 1970s.
So you want a special edition of the book, and the DVD comes with it, and some Dabadoo rolling papers and all kind of, and I think a Dabadoo pin, yeah, or a pollinator pin, something like that.
Oh, I'm sure this is just a tease to a great story or movie for sure. It sounds like you've lived a life that could only be told in a movie. To be honest with you,
The movie's still gotta come. We haven't done that one yet. But she's been in the movie. That was way back when she first had the boutique. She was actually a movie star.
Yes.
But Dutch cinema is very small and very, unheard of. So she didn't make a
And
big
it
house.
was kind of an underground movie without much finance. It's a black and white movie. But you do see me.
Oh yeah.
that's pretty cool too. The American one here in chat wanted to know. I know if you would tell us a little bit about the grow in the police station. Uh, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Growing.
It's the story of the grow in the old police station. think that's what he wants to hear about.
No, the old prison
Yeah.
in the under
At
the
one
bridge.
point, I was working with two other guys, and they would build gardens. And they would get little fans from the Waterloo market, secondhand little fans from computers, and hang them at the bottom of the plants so that there would be air down there also. And they just built and built and built. At one point, we had 13 gardens all over the city. And some had 10 lamps, some had 40 lamps. And then we got the opportunity to have one in this old jail. And they used to have a jail under the bridge in 1600, I don't know exactly. And it's still there. And later from there, they built it as an atomic
Tunnel escape.
shelter. And there was an escape to the palace in Amsterdam, which was just like 200 yards away. So that was funny to have this enormous door that protected you against atom bombs if you stayed inside. But the funny thing was about this place, it was quite a lot of work, and it was to set it up even. But then in the winter time, when it snowed in Amsterdam, that was the only part of Amsterdam that melted. And that really surprised me because there was like more than 6 yards of earth above the top of our grow where the lamps were hanging down. And then there was 6 yards of earth, and then the bridge was up there because this whole thing was built under the bridge, the old jail. And the snow melted. And I thought, well, I got to go down. I've got to check. One thing when I was growing, at least once a day, I wanted to check everything that's happening, even if it's 13 different locations in town. They weren't very far apart. And I was like, oh, my heart beating the whole time. Was this going to be the end of this grow? And by the time, though, I got up, nothing had happened, and I got up. And in Amsterdam, the snow doesn't stay like in Michigan. You know, it's there at 8 in the morning, maybe still at 11 in the morning, but by 2 in the afternoon, it has melted away. So thank God my roof of my grow is the same as every other place. But we had some funny experiences with those 13 grows. We had one was out close in the countryside. Yeah, and we didn't know. But apparently the year before we moved in, somebody had been busy with coke in that same building. So they were keeping a watch on it. Thank God when they came, we were just driving away. So we just lost that grow. We weren't personally involved. But it was a shame because we were working a lot with our EC and pH meter at that time for nutrients. We had discovered that we call it a sloat. It's a water ditch that's connected to other ditches in the end to the canal, whatever. Had the perfect EC. So just for the hell of it, we were going to, for at least one of our tables, get the water from outside to see if we could actually grow something with the ditch water. But we didn't get around to it. They closed it down before then. Yeah, we had, that was a busy time. Man, oh man. I had a whole calendar and it would tell me exactly which of those 13 gardens was harvested at a certain day. And I think that was marked in red. And then 3 weeks earlier would be marked a day when it was time to make clones for that place. And then anywhere between a week or 10 days after the clones were made, they were sent on to the vegetating place. That is really a big beneficial thing if you're growing indoors, to have a separate vegetating space, because then your grow lamps are just growing 12 hours a day the whole year. So you actually increase a yield per year. Like we were growing this orange bud and that required 8 weeks of flowering exactly. So if you don't vegetate in in that same space and only flour, you get 6 crops instead of 5. That make a big difference. We also developed rolling tables in them. There, of course, in Holland, we're very short of space. So we want to make the most out of our space. So we would have this room, say kind of octagonal. We would leave a path on one side we could walk, and the rest we'd fill with tables with wheels. And we'd jam them all up towards the back end, and the lamps would be shining down. No light would get lost on pathways or in between, nothing. It was solid plants, solid lights. Then when they were done, we would harvest the first table, move it back, harvest the second table, move it back, all the way till we got to the end, clean the table, have the vegetated cones ready, put them in. Like within 3-4 hours, you changed the place for 40 lamps, and it just went on flowering. And I think that was important. We did very well with our growing. It was just, I figured it's not wise to be in all this growing when you got 4 kids as a single mom. So I changed to a pollinator company. By then, most of the kids were close on being teenagers. I was 50 when I started the company. So that was the first time I'd had a company since the boutique and the tea house. All that time in between in India, there was no company. Yeah, we had local women knitting sweaters. We'd sell in the States, in California mainly, in Northern California, where they all live in wooden houses that get very cold at winter. So these hand-spun, hand-knitted sweaters from Himalayas were very welcome there. Yeah, I did a lot of things to support the kids. You have to get very creative.
Well, I most definitely have grown before it was legal here. That's for sure. So I can relate. I most definitely hustled a little bit to pay the bills at some point. So I can understand. I can understand for sure. And also can respect that the fact that you kind of need to shelf it a little bit to pay for the, take care of the 4 kids. And you also, I want to reiterate a little bit. Give me a whole lot of hope. I've said throughout this thing that, you've done you're light years ahead of me in things you've done in terms of age. But you say you didn't start the company till 50. I'm 48. I still got a little bit of time to catch up here. If I'm smart, I can light a fire under my ass.
And 25 years later, you'll be the king.
I can only hope. But it does. I do find it quite inspiring that you've taken off and run with it at 50. That's a lot of people are still settling at 50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just looking. They've lived their life. They just want to find that spot to settle. And at 50, you were just digging in and stepping it up. Very inspiring. Very inspiring. Yeah, for sure. It gives me great hope that I've always liked to think that I could still have some time to get some shit done, but to know great people like yourself are just taking off at 50 and kicking it into second gear is very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Start a whole new thing by the time you're 50. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever.
For sure,
I hope you're happy doing it. I think that's also really nice because I love hash. And what do? I make equipment so everybody can make hash. And then we chat together and everybody's happy.
And like I've said, and I've noticed that as I've looked back over your history here the last few days to kind of brush up a little bit for this, that's one thing that is a staple. And I'm sure your daughter will find that as she looks back through all those flash drives, is that that smile. You can tell that, throughout all those photos, throughout the, your life here, you've had that staple smile, and it's so genuine in every photo that you talk about the importance of enjoying what you're doing as you're doing it. You can tell that you've enjoyed your path, and I think it's
and,
very important.
and to be content with it. You know, not always wish, oh, I wish I was a millionaire. No, I never became a millionaire with this business. I probably never will. Or something like that, you know. I don't need a sports car. I don't need a big mansion. So be content with what you have and don't make yourself crazy wanting other stuff the whole time.
Great advice, very great advice, that's for sure. So how have you enjoyed your time with hanging out with Eagle today so far? Is it
I had a great time.
something that you'd be interested in coming back and hanging out at another date and maybe doing another episode with me at some point?
We can do another episode because to tell you the truth, I'm getting a bit hungry. Let me see what time it is. Way past my dinner time. 10:30. Well, I better get
Holy
going.
cow, yeah.
Better get that salmon
One
down.
thing, one thing I like to do here, and I'm hoping that you will be so gracious to play along with me on this. Every episode with the new guests to mark their episode, and just uh, in celebration here, I'm gonna at 1,000 subscribers, which is like probably today or tomorrow. I plan to do this soundbite thing, but Smiley's Gardens was nice enough to point out it's a great way to advertise for people tomorrow's show or people that are thinking to come on the show. How fun it could be, but basically, it's a old school like radio soundbite. I don't know like what the radio's like there in the Netherlands, but back in the early
I'm
80s
sure.
here, we would have the artist would come on, and well, pretty much the artist is you, and they would come on, give that station identification. Hi, this is Butts and Suts, and I'm on KLB, that whole spiel. So could you pretty much give me that? Hi, this is Mila. I'm the hash queen, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle. I mean, you could leave out the fucking if you want, but could you give me,
No problem.
please,
No
please,
problem.
please, give me my sound bite for your advertisement?
Hey, hi, you guys. I'm Mila, and I'm just having such a great time talking here with this fucking eagle. Man, he's a guy. You got to meet him. You got to listen to this guy. Anyway, until next time, I love you all. Mwah.
That was fucking talking shit with Eagle.
Man, thank you so much. That's probably been one of the best ones so far, and I can't wait to. That one's going up immediately for sure. Uh, Thank you so much. Thank
Love you
you
lots,
so
and
much.
thank you for inviting me and my daughter. It was really nice to talk with you and to hang out like this.
Thank you so much. And get something to eat. And I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Even more so when you get here in Michigan. It'd be such an honor to shake your hand, possibly get a hug and a photo would be
I was going to
great.
say, I usually hug people. Like a lot of the people I meet are from South America and Spain, and I don't speak Spanish, but I've heard a hug is understood everywhere.
It is. It is. And it's such a better way to meet somebody, a warm welcome. So,
Yes.
yes, I would love to take you up on that when you get here. So, thank you so
Okay.
much. Please get something to eat. It was a nice meeting you as well. And thank you for getting on camera, by the way. We've heard about her fabulous kids, but it's been nice to see one firsthand. And a pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you so much for taking your time out and making this happen, because without you and the social media, this may not have happened. So thank you very much for putting us together. Thank you so much.
My
You
It
guys
pleasure.
was an
enjoy the
honor
rest
to
of
be
your
part of
day.
it. It was an honor to be part of this. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys enjoy your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Amelia, the Hash Queen. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Happy birthday, Tara Wilson. I hope you're enjoying your day. Automation is freedom. Of course, I've got to do the daily shout outs because there's a lot of names that are in this chat right now that aren't in the nightly shows. So I get to shout out some new names for a change. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We'll start out with who's on the screen right now: Tyler, Taylor Wilson, Elliot Harkins, the American one, Green Puffin Man, Majestic, Marks, Automation is Freedom, Miss D's Nugs, Humble Grower 420, Nitwit. Hey, Nitwit. Thank you so much for joining in. Chris Mertz, Chiba Man, Peter Griffin, Smiley's Gardens. So many great names. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through these ones. Green Mountain Joe Grower, Bill Sid, Mr. Green Pot. So many great people kicking in today. Thank you guys so much. Jax Greenstock, the Major General 420 Army. What is up? Salute, good sir, to you. Light it up again, Tim, the Puffin, the Green Puffin Man. I am so sorry. Joining us today. Who else has here been here in the chat? So many great people. UKSIF 420. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This special afternoon. Laz PPG 15. I hope you're enjoying your day, Buddha Boy. Who else have we got here hanging out? I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to check back later on at 11:30 for Kush Queen. That'll be another great episode later on. Lexi, I can't forget her. Brittany, Courtney, I love you girls, my babies. Michigan native, Twisted Roots. I see you in chat. I'll see you. You'll be on the show tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Red Eye Rustler, Shrate. Shout out to Germany for tuning in on this episode. BLK Eagle 420, thank you for checking out the show this afternoon. I think I've got pretty well much. From 619 to 664, Dreamer 776DD. That's pretty much as far as I can go back. I think I've hit pretty well everyone that I've seen in chat. Oh, there's one right. Ready Flyer. I probably missed that, but I did miss that name too. Shout out to everybody that takes place in the show, hanging out in chat. I love seeing everybody in hanging out, talking to each other, making friends in chat, and enjoying the show. It means so much to me. With all that being said, hey Nova, I almost missed that one. Hey Nova, how you doing? Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I look forward to hanging out with everybody tonight. I got to get some shit done. You guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I will be back again at 11:30. Kush Queen will be here, and yeah, plenty of time to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness save lives. Random acts of kindness make this show possible. Random acts of kindness let people donate time like Miss Amelia, Hash Queen, the Hash Queen. Please don't forget to check out her website, thepollinator.nl. Her book, her products are available there. Always to go to the site first because that's I'm sure she generates the most cash from the site and not as much through Amazon. Not to mention you can get that signed book there, like I am heading over there to get myself. So yeah. With all that being said, thank you for tuning in on this special afternoon episode. I will see you tonight. I'm gonna get some work done. I will see you later. Peace. Love you guys for tuning in. Have a great day.